Toss it in ArtSpeak University here. And so I'm going to hand it over to Jackson to get us started.
Yeah, we'll kick off today, but it's going to be myself and Megan. And Megan's going to kick us off, but this should be a fun topic. Our description isn't here, so I feel like I would love to just share what the description was real quick, and then Megan's going to kick it off. Our description for today was, let's look back at the crumbling landscape of social media in 2022 and look ahead to the volatile futures of security risk TikTok and Elon-led Twitter. Tesla's rocket ships and AI chatbots are here to stay. So welcome.
Yes, welcome everybody. I think Jackson really solidly put what we're going to be talking about into words. So yeah, we're going to be talking through some social media predictions of 2023. But before we get into that, we would love to share some trends that we saw in 2022, because much of that is going to bleed into this year as well. So the first trend that we would like to touch on is the rise of short form video content. So for those that don't know, short form video content is content under 90 or 60 seconds. It is the most popular and effective content on social media right now. Our attention spans are getting shorter and shorter, and so we've seen views drop off of longer form content, so long YouTube videos, that sort of thing. But about a third of all short form content is watched more than 80% of the way through. So we have a much higher likelihood of engaging the person who's watching. And short form video content ranks #1 for lead generation and engagement. It encourages creator and viewer participation because it's a lot easier to produce, so it's a lot faster to cycle through. So when you think about a kind of traditional video ad that takes all these production teams, it takes all this time editing, all that kind of stuff, compared to making a video for TikTok or a reel, where most of the time users really just need a phone to get started. The platforms will usually supply the editing tools, filters, everything that you would need to put out a short video. And because the content is easier to produce, there's more opportunity to lean into like really relevant trends and memes and other things that's going on, because there isn't this huge turnaround. And again, because there's not this huge turnaround time, there's a stronger feedback loop between creators and their audience. So those watching can really feel more connected, like they're actually participating in the content creation.
Yeah, the second one that we have is UGC, or user-generated content, which I feel like at this point most people probably have heard of. But just in case you haven't, what is UGC? UGC is original brand-specific content created by customers, brand loyalists, employees, and UGC creators in some occasions. UGC is considered a form of influencer marketing, but it originally stemming from larger influencers. So that really the difference between influencer and UGC marketing is UGC is a form of influencer marketing that allows creators to partner with brands without having a large audience of their own. So one of the benefits really for UGC over influencer, again, is just you don't have to have that large following. UGC is an opportunity for you to jump in as like a creator and not an influencer. And really one of the big benefits of UGC is people trust people, not brands, which has been probably a big sentiment or feeling of social media over the last like 2 or 3 years in particular. People really have dove deep into being able to trust people that they follow or that have similar interests, not really aligning or being able to just jump right in and trust a brand from the start.
And the next thing that we noticed is a rise of no filter feeds. So there has been a big influx of casual social media, and what that is defined as is a focus on depicting more relatable aspects of your life. So photo dumps, candid pictures, ironic selfie, and just lots and lots of pictures showing your life. So Be Real, the app was kind of the catalyst to this shift, and the impact that the app has made is undeniable on social media. So we've seen posts like photo dumps on Instagram that aren't highly produced, Gen Z specifically is looking for content that's not curated, that isn't asking them to buy anything and doesn't make them feel bad about their life because it looks really similar to their life. So they're looking for uncurated content, which is ironic because no filter feeds are still curated. It's just in a different way than we're used to. It's a big shift from even a few years ago where we're seeing a lot of photo shoots, highly edited content, that kind of thing. It was the norm, even, just before the pandemic. And then we shifted to this no filter feed.
So the fourth one that we're recapping from 2022 is the creator economy maturing. So this can be kind of contradictory depending where you stand as a creator or what type of platforms you're on or what type of content you're creating. But one thing that was true in 2022 was that there was better pay for creators. Larger audiences didn't necessarily mean that you had a better payday, and monetizing communities, not only platforms any longer. And so what we mean by that is creators are building opportunities to connect or educate further through platforms like Patreon, online courses, and in some scenarios, creators are even branching out to start physical locations, physical stores, or physical brands that you can purchase in person or sometimes even through e-commerce shopping experiences. Yeah.
Something else that we saw last year was that creators were really frustrated with platform progression. So back in the summer, we saw these frustrations come to a head when a popular creator posted this on their Instagram, which was, make Instagram again, with a link to a change.org petition, asking people to sign and ask the leaders at Instagram to revert the act back to what they were all used to and were excited about. Many creators, big and small, weighed in on this and how they're fed up with Instagram pivoting from high production images to reels and stories. And of course, there was valid criticisms of these changes, and it really highlighted their frustrations with the platform. But it is a little unfair to expect a platform to stay the same as it's always been and not lean into what users are engaging with. And I think that's really highlighted by the fact that Instagram, for example, still has about 1.5 billion active users. It's not going away. People are still on there. They're still using it. It's just shifted in the past couple of years. And with that, now that we've kind of powered through some 2022 trends, I'd love for you guys to write in the Slack channel, in the chat, some things that you saw trending in 2022. Is there anything that we missed? Is there anything that really resonated with you? And then we'll move into some 2023 trends as well.
I'm just waiting to see what some of these are that get dropped in here. YouTube Shorts, short form videos, like you said, was the biggest trend. Social media pulled back from a lot of people who were deep into it previously. Only for Jason, actually. The importance of Reels is growing their audience. Comment section. Yeah, that's been a big trend. I think a lot of that was influenced by Twitter threads as well, which was an interesting change. Carousel ads, brands commenting. Yeah, there's also some hysterical brands out there and also some brands that have no filter, which is pretty wild to see.
Yeah, I think, not to butt in, I think the brands getting in comment sections kind of aligns with what you were saying, Jackson, which is people trust people, not brands. And
Yeah.
so the content itself is where we see like the company or is like our views where we see the company or brand talking. We think the people really are the ones talking in the comment section. So brands getting in the comment section, I think just, again, makes that more accessible, makes it feel more human and more like people. So I don't think it's like a disingenuous strategy. We're trying to be manipulative. I think it's just a realization that like the comment section is as important as the comments or as the content itself. And so the brand needs to be there as well.
Yeah, I would also, yeah, I agree. There's also different like variations of it too. For like, if you think, if anyone's ever seen how Slack communicates with consumers on like LinkedIn or Facebook, it's super interesting to see like how welcoming they are and how fun and engaging they are. You know that you're talking with a person, but they speak as the brand, and it's been fun to see how they engage with their community in that format. We do not like Instagram's leave a note feature. Threshold become a creator got dropped quite a bit. Yeah. Uri, you have a good one there. That'll actually come out in this presentation, I think. But yeah, these are all awesome and super accurate. Sweet. We'll keep moving. So now we'll jump into, we are essentially going to talk through 5 predictions of where, as Megan and I kind of deciphered through like where social media has been over the last year and the progression of where it's going via platforms, via creators, via privacy rules, and new technologies. And so these are just 5 predictions we see evolving or kind of entering the market in a bigger way. Doesn't necessarily mean they're brand new to the scene. And it also doesn't mean that we are 100% right, because this is really based off of opinion. So again, at the end, would even love to hear your opinions too. But the first prediction that we have is AI. And so the way that we split up AI in particular was into 2 segments. So AI for creators and AI for platform, because there's AI is kind of playing its way into both sides of the social media realm. And so for creators, the way we're seeing it come to fruition is through new topic ideation, response tools, scripting, and creative generation. So as you guys have seen with even, I think Kirk has thrown some artwork previously in ArtSpeak's channels, or people who may have gotten to mess around a little bit with like an AI artwork generator. Or if you even saw like the profiles where everyone was kind of cartooning or AI artwork in themselves. Those are some examples of just kind of creative generation. But then a lot of creative teams are also utilizing the tool, not necessarily to write every article, but to write some copy or to write outlines or to ideate new scripts or new outlines for a concept that they might have. So that's fun to see. And we're definitely going to see a lot more of that, whether we like it or not, especially copywriters. I think one of the trends that we've talked about is just how copywriters and strategists can even kind of lean into that. And how they can utilize it to their benefit to make their workflow, what would you say, faster and smarter. And then the other side to AI there is platform AI. So some of these that we have been seeing were hyper individualization of social experiences, which a great example of that is like a discovery feed, or the For You page when you're on TikTok, or on Twitter, just your general feed that is of people who you're not currently following, which I don't know what they call that tab. So I'm going to call it discovery feed. And then learning audiences, posting times, and evolving algorithms. So one of the recent things that we've heard a lot about is the algorithm. People are always wanting to know, what are the algorithm updates? What's happening with Facebook's algorithm? What's happening with TikTok's algorithm? What is Instagram even doing at this point? And one of the things that we recently learned is that the algorithms are self-learning, and that the algorithms actually play off of each other to some extent. And so they're going to continually evolve. And I think one thing that we're going to start to see through that is more of the hyper-individualized social experiences, sorry. And so I think we'll kind of get more involved with, and we've even seen this on the web front when people go from an individualized social experience to landing on a website that has an individualized experience for that user once they've come to it from a specific location or so forth. So yeah, we'll see where AI goes.
The next thing that we saw, which a few people have already touched on in the Slack channel as well, is that kind of the barriers to being a creator have become smaller, and that kind of leads into micro-influencing. We're seeing a big rise of micro-influencing compared to traditional influencer marketing. So Just for those who don't know, a micro influencer can be someone like that as small as like a local creator engaging with small businesses in their town, that kind of thing, or someone who has 10 or 100,000 followers. Kind of the big difference between a micro influencer and a traditional influencer, other than the size, is the relationship with their followers. So oftentimes people can relate to this micro influencer. They see their own struggles in them. They feel like a peer to them. They're someone that is kind of a reflection of themselves. And these micro influencers oftentimes have other jobs outside of influencing. So again, they can see the activities that they're doing in their daily life reflected in that influencer. And these micro influencers are a big benefit to brands. And oftentimes people will say it's because they have, they're cheaper to get them to do marketing for, but that isn't really the major difference. The biggest one is that they have a more highly engaged audience than a traditional influencer. Their audience is more trusting. They're more willing to actually make a purchase or do the action step that the influencer is asking of them.
TikTok takeover. I think we've all seen the evolution of TikTok taking place and kind of just taking its impact across the board on social. So we've seen this kind of hit really hard, and how even Instagram has really fallen into the trap of switching their feed to basically reels and really not aligning their algorithm with photo content. That doesn't mean photo is not relevant, just means that they're chasing a specific style of content. With that, whether we love it or not, currently TikTok has over 1.5 billion active monthly users. And then another fun fact based off of TikTok that I found before this was in the first quarter of 2021, TikTok actually surpassed Google in the most visits for a full quarter, which is kind of absurd to think about, especially Google being the powerhouse that it is. But it just goes to show how impactful TikTok has been. Another way we've seen it is just YouTube Shorts coming into play, and Facebook really driving their short videos and even the stories on Facebook. And then there's even some drops right now of Amazon testing out a TikTokified experience for its shoppers in platforms. So it could be interesting to see how even e-commerce platforms start to utilize kind of the TikTokified user experience through their platforms as well. So I think we'll just see this continue at least through this year.
So TikTok is definitely taking over, don't get it twisted, but YouTube is not going anywhere. YouTube is definitely still on the rise, despite what many people are saying that YouTube is dying out. The numbers just tell us otherwise. YouTube is the second most popular social media platform even still. In 2022, there was 2.46 billion users on YouTube, which is a 4.5 growth rate compared to 2021. All ages and genders are on the platform, but it's actually mostly 18 to 29-year-olds that are engaged. And the US is the second largest user base in the world, second only to India, which I found really interesting. Canada does not even crack the top 10, so just something to think about. But like Jackson mentioned before, TikTok is being used as a search engine, but so is YouTube. TikTok is being used by Gen Zs for their searches, but many of the older generations are using YouTube. And while there's a focus on short form content, brands shouldn't be leaving YouTube in the dust. YouTube is leaning into this TikTokification as well. They're using shorts. They have a whole new strategy that they're launching for how to monetize shorts. They are not going anywhere.
And then our final prediction that we have, at least at this point, is community over followers. So this is something we've started to see kind of in the recent years, but there's definitely been a heavier push leading into 2023, is just as people have kind of veered away from just always following large influencers or large brands, and we've started to see that micro influencer evolve, and we've kind of seen that evolution. We've also seen just opportunity for people to really lean into their community and build quite a following or quite a high level of engagement, and even high levels of income through this. We've seen a lot of people who don't necessarily have 2 million or 4 million, 5 million, etc. in following, but they're still making a 6-figure income through social media platforms because they're able to generate a community that is highly involved. And so there's various ways that we're seeing this. What you have on the screen here is kind of a funnel cycle that a lot of people are using for this, and it's just how to drive engagement, pushing down to brand awareness, pushing down to building relationships, and then driving into a next step. And so that's a typical funnel that we see, but people are really figuring out how to utilize that in a community format rather than how do I drive people to follow me? How do I drive people to connect with me? And how do I drive people to a next step through engagement in my community? And so I think we'll see quite a bit of that coming up. And then one of the big things, and this can be kind of a debate in this point, is actually a debate that's just arising now. So over the last year or two, we've really seen creators push for niche content, and we've pushed people into communities based on niches. And that has gotten to the point now where creators are starting to be kind of suppressed by their creative abilities when they're niche down so tight. And now creators are kind of saying, well, I've niched myself down to this and I have no way out of here, or I niche myself down to this and I don't have much room for creativity in this niche. So I really want to start to figure out how to enter other niches, or I want to figure out how to grow what I'm known for. And so it'll be kind of an interesting push when these communities have been built around these niches. But then we also have kind of people just trying to push outside of that while grow and retain these communities. And one of the ways that we're seeing that right now is through relational equity and just people trying to make content less about their niche and more about who they are and let their personality kind of shine through that. So should be interesting. But yeah, these are our 5. And then I think we have a recap slide of just the 5. So the 5 again that we are predicting that'll kind of evolve and grow throughout 2023 would be AI, micro influencers, TikTok takeover, YouTube is still on the rise, and then community over followers. So that's what we've preferred. We'd love to know what questions you have on that. And then we also have a takeaway question that if we have time for, we'll discuss here. And if not, we'll drop it in the community.
I have one TikTok question. What do we do? What do you think? I'm just watching as like these universities are banning TikTok, and then the US government was like, maybe we won't let our employees have it on their phone. Any intel on like how to think about that, or like what to do specifically with this now kind of national call to anti-TikTok? I don't know. It's just interesting.
Yeah, I think one of the things to keep note of is that privacy laws are continually changing. Privacy acts are continually changing, and even just like the use of like data or personal information in order to have like lists or to target people or to have information on your current audience, that's constantly evolving. And even platform, like the ability for platforms to track specific data, there's been a huge push from Apple to really kind of solidify processes and make laws there. And so there's been a lot that has evolved over the years. And I think that that's honestly probably a piece of the social realm that will continually evolve. So I think we can make assumptions. I don't know enough about that. I know what you're talking about when it comes to like the government stepping in and saying like not allowed to use this at work and whatnot, but or not allowed to have it on work phones, whatever that new law was. But I think the other thing to think about and note there is just not necessarily TikTok, the platform itself, but almost going back to that TikTokifying the experience is just more so the experience that TikTok is providing and how that experience is now bleeding into other social platforms as well. I think we'll kind of see different iterations of that. And I think a lot of that in full transparency, this is a personal opinion, is just going to be based off of the evolution of consumerism in how we relate to social media. And I think a lot of that is like mental health how much time
Yeah.
people are spending on it, what people are getting out of it, and just kind of wherever that road leads that.
It's good.
Whoa, there's a lot of comments.
I saw that Bria asked if Facebook is going away. Not likely. I did not mention this earlier when I said that YouTube is the second highest platform. Facebook is the first still, which is crazy, but I don't think it's going anywhere. I think maybe the audience has shifted. Maybe younger people aren't as engaged on Facebook, but I don't think it's going anywhere. Jackson, any thoughts?
I don't think so. One comment that I saw recently through an interview that was actually quite comical was from a previous brand director of Doritos, who used to work on national commercials for Doritos and previously would spend millions of dollars for putting Doritos on Super Bowl commercials. And he recently had a statement of, you would be ridiculous to waste your time and energy and money on getting that on the Super Bowl when you have the Super Bowl daily in people's pockets, which is kind of an absurd thought because you really do organically, or even just with a small push, that's a fraction of the price at this point. And I think Facebook really lends itself to that arena right now. What other questions do we have?
I just had a question regarding, so I've done content creation and been through the whole ringer in 2020. I've stopped for a while, but I'm wondering, as everything's evolving, I do want to look back into it, and I'm wondering what's the simplest way to get into it, the kind of with the most impact. And I think for me that trend of it being more about community is really intriguing for me, because that's always been something where the whole gaining followers and you're always looking for a certain number of likes or whatever has always been off-putting. So how could you potentially jump in now as opposed to in 2020? How would it look different now?
Megan, do you want to jump on that one?
Can you say the last part again, Uriah?
Yeah, so maybe 2-3 years ago, it would have been different if someone was just starting what you would have recommended for Instagram, for instance. How have things shifted to where it's not about gaining X number of followers or having X number of likes or whatever? Yeah, sorry if I wasn't clear enough. Michi can cut that all out. But how can you make the biggest impact now, and how the metrics have changed? I hope I'm clear.
That's a really, really broad question to respond to.
Sorry. Can you see that I'm not on social very often? Thanks.
That's
I'm sorry, I actually have a really similar question, and maybe this can help focus the answer. If we get a new client right now, especially one that's in the influencer space, what's the quickest road to winning on social?
Yeah. So I'll kick this off, and then Megan, I'd love for you to add to it. But I think the number one thing is figuring out who your target audience is, who you want to engage with, and then where that community is. So if you have interest in Gen Z, obviously, or maybe not so obviously, that might be a waste of time for you to put a lot of time and energy into Facebook. In full transparency, it may even be slightly a waste of time to spend your time on Instagram. For someone like Gen Z, if that's your target audience, you may want to spend your time on Snapchat and TikTok only. Snapchat is surprisingly the #1 social platform for Gen Z, which a lot of people don't recognize, but it's actually the #1 communicated or #1 tool used for communication with Gen Z, which is kind of absurd to think about. And I didn't believe that at first. And then my wife's little brother only communicates with me through Snapchat. I can text him. I won't get a response for a week. If I Snapchat him, I will get a response in 30 seconds. So I don't know why that is, but just to get started, figuring out a lot of the time we have people or influencers or just anyone that wants to get started on social, they really just jump in and they're like, hey, I'm going to do all the things. I'm going to be on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. Well, you're going to spend a lot of time creating content for each of those platforms. And you're going to spend a lot of energy that's probably going to drain you to some extent. Whereas you can figure out where the audience is that you want to communicate with and go to that platform. And then secondary to that, I would also say be on the platforms that you enjoy the most, because if you're on a platform that drains you, you're going to spend a lot of time creating content for an audience that you don't want to engage with.
I would also add to that, just like backing it up even further, is like figuring out what those wins are for your client, because someone's win might be, okay, we want to grow our following. Someone's win might be, we want people to know what's going on in our community. Someone's win might be something else altogether. So maybe just backing it up and seeing, you know, all the way from square one, what they're actually looking for. And I think also, kind of as we've seen a shift from the super curated content on social to a more authentic, quote unquote, feed, I think that really takes a lot of pressure off for people who are just getting started. It's like, just put yourself out there compared to, okay, we need to do this photo shoot now, we need to think about all of this stuff. Just start, I would say.
I ask a question about that. I love that trend, and I saw that last year. I was just watching a Gary Vee interviewing, I missed who it was, but a content provider, and they were talking about how they've also seen their ability to recycle their old content, edit it, change the thumbnail, make it better, more creative, and see that trend. So they might, like this guy said, he tried once, got like 1,000 views, twice got like 1,500, third time 1,400, fifth time 9 million views. They both quoted Mr. Beast apparently has come out and said that he has spent 6 figures on a thumbnail trying to get the right one, but then it pays it for itself. So so can you tell me about your view? Because I mean, we can design, we can help. Yes, authentic, but then there are people who are, if you're being creative, it's paying off. I'm curious.
Yeah, so I think there's 2 sides to everything we're talking about. There's kind of like the how do I approach it, and then how do I strategically approach this, or how do I strategically do this? And so social is this extremely wide, extremely vast, and extremely obscure world. And it's probably one of the fastest evolving forms of marketing, engagement, community that we have as a society. So when it comes to the approach, I would say the stuff that Megan and I kind of initially said is what sits on how do I approach this if I just want to get started. What sits on the strategic side is the tactical information of things like what you're asking about, where it's like, hey, YouTube thumbnails, how do I drive engagement through a YouTube thumbnail that makes people want to view more or makes people intrigued? So I think I dropped this in ArtSpeak's community yesterday, but Facebook just dropped this this past week, I believe, and said that in 2023, now, in order to engage with a new consumer, you have to hook them in the first second. And so when you're thinking strategically approaching, how do you create content that provides value in 1 second? You need to capture them before you've even shown them the value. You need to engage with them before you even started to provide them the knowledge. And so I think there's a lot of, the hard part to answering this question is there's so many different areas we could go to. Strategically, how can we lean into that? I think we can constantly be on the forefront of what trends are happening, either through design or with content creation. There's trends right now of like, even how subtitles get framed out across a video, or how subtitles pop up in the middle of a large statement. If an influencer has a video and he's recording himself saying something like, I don't know, some 30-second inspirational video for the year, that influencer probably has subtitles going, and then he probably also has a subtitle that has large, bold, colored call outs from words that he just stated. And those call outs are probably in the form of an editor called Hitachi. And Hitachi is a form of editing that has really influenced in 2022 and 2023. And so this is where it gets like super technical and trying to figure it out. And it's really just approaching content, like Megan said, with what you're excited about and being able to put that content in front of the audience that is going to resonate with it. I think you learn a lot of the strategic approach, or people like myself or Megan or Andrew or whoever, Michi, can really jump in and kind of help with those like strategic questions. So that's a very broad answer for a very broad question. And if you have more in-depth questions, I would love to like speak to those as well. But I know we are definitely running out of time, or we are out of time.
We are over, but this is a fantastic conversation, and I want to invite everyone to keep the conversation going in Slack, in the ArtSpeak University channel, and ArtSpeak Creative Community. If you haven't joined the ArtSpeak Creative Community and you happen to be watching this, then I invite you to join. We have conversations like this every week, plus a feedback channel where you can get feedback on anything: creativity, communications, graphics, videos, strategy, messaging, media, more, and free access to everything in our creative templates and graphics library. So we'd love to see you there, love to meet you. But thanks for joining us here. We'll see you in the channels.